Hi guys, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm up on the Cocoa Vanilla Studio blog with another design team layout, and this month we are focusing on using the free cut files that come with the Legendary collection. So you can get these cut files for free on the Cocoa Vanilla Studio website. I'll leave the link in the description box below. I've chosen to use the adventure title, so I have taken it and cut it twice. I cut it first in this yellow, which is the Wild One pattern paper, and then I did an offset on my silhouette to cut it slightly larger, and that cuts it all out in one piece. And that I cut on the Offbeat pattern paper, which is that tone on tone blue stars. So now I'm going ahead with my paper piercing tool and my little piercing mat, and I'm piercing some stitching holes along the yellow part of the cut file title. So I go ahead and do that on all the letters. And now I am taking my white embroidery thread and I'm going to do a chain stitch. So I'm just doing a single line of chain stitch up the center of each of those letters. I have been on a bit of a stitching kick lately. I seem to be doing hand stitching on almost all of my layouts. Somewhere I've got hand stitching on just lately. The last layout I did for Cocoa Vanilla Studio had hand stitching on it, and the next one after this one will have as well. I love the way it looks. I love the texture. I really enjoy the process of it. I'm a cross stitcher as well, so that's another one of my hobbies. I don't do it so much anymore, but I still have all the gear, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So yeah, I pop on a movie or some YouTube videos and just go to town. So I'm just using all 6 strands of white embroidery thread here, just doing a chain stitch. So there's a couple of ways to do this, but for today I am just coming up from the bottom hole, going behind both the loops of the loop above, and then going back down through the same hole. So it's kind of hard to explain. My next video I'd slow it down a bit more and show you how to do it a little bit more step by step, but there are heaps of embroidery tutorials on YouTube. So now I have finished all that off camera, and I'm just going ahead and gluing, adding a bit of wet glue to the back of the stitching, and then gluing my yellow letters on top of the offset blue. And that gives it lots of dimension because the stitching is raised on the back, so it pops it up almost like it's up on foam. This paper I am taking now, called Epic Tales. I have cut out the center because I don't want to waste any of the beautiful paper in this collection. I just adore it, so I keep every scrap I possibly can. And I'm going to just trim off I'd say about 3/4 of an inch off 2 sides of this Offbeat pattern paper. So I just want it to sit just inside the first paper, just like that, a bit of a kind of frame effect. And I'm just using a little bit of wet glue to adhere that down because I am going to run this through my sewing machine. So if you're going to use your sewing machine on your scrapbook layouts, make sure you don't use any double-sided tape or anything like that. You want a glue that's going to dry down, and you don't want to use too much of it either. So this paper I'm taking, this is actually a mixed media cardstock, and I'm just marking it exactly the size I want. Again, I just want it to nestle inside of that Offbeat paper just to create that kind of frame effect. So there we go. I'm going to do a little bit of mixed media on this. I'm not going to prep it with gesso or anything because like I said, it is a mixed media paper, and I find it doesn't need any gesso or anything when I'm not using too much liquid. So again, just a little bit of wet glue to stick that down. I'm not using too much, just a thin line. And now, before I do my sewing, I'm just jumping around as I tend to do, and I'm just popping a couple of paper layers behind my photo. So I'm just using some white paper here. I just really like to, I think on almost all my layouts I'll do a white border around my photo. It just really helps it to pop out off the page. And now I'm taking this orange pattern off the one-way pattern paper, and the other side is those arrows, which I'll also use some of. But I just wanted to use a thin border of this orange. I'm not going to use this orange really anywhere else on the page, so it really just helps to center the eye straight to my photo. So when you look at this layout, because that's the only really obvious pop of orange, then your attention is drawn straight to that area. So there's the rest, almost all of the rest of that piece of paper. I've used quite a lot of that one-way paper, and I'm just, when I looked at it, I noticed that size was just about right to just sort of sit behind my photo. So I've just trimmed it down a little bit, torn two edges that you're going to see and then distressed the other two. And I'm just going to sit it kind of behind that, behind my photo, a bit like, it's just going to be a landing spot for some of my embellishments, because I don't know, my page doesn't really have any obvious spaces to embellish because I have that large title and then my photo just in the middle. Yeah, I just kind of wanted a little spot for some embellishments to live. So I'm just adding a couple of torn pieces of this rainbow stripe, which is the other side of that yellow wild one pattern paper. And I just, because the arrow paper is white background, it kind of fades quite a lot into the background. So that blue stripe just kind of helps it stand out a little more. This page was very much figure it out as I go. I didn't pre-plan any of this really except for the cut file. So yeah, it was just, I don't know, just seeing what worked and going with the flow, and yeah, just hoping things turned out in the end. So I brought in my sewing machine. You can see here, you can't really see what I'm doing because my camera was zoomed in a little too far, but I am going around with a straight stitch all the way around the inside of that a white piece of paper. And every now and then, near the corners, I did about 1 inch of a zigzag stitch. So you'll see that in the close-ups where I switched my machine over to a zigzag and just did 1 inch. And I tried to make it not uniform, so it's kind of messy and interesting looking. Now I'm just taking my fingernails and distressing the edge of those papers. I'm being pretty rough. The papers are really thick from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. They're beautiful quality, so you can be pretty hard on them, and it doesn't, it doesn't tear them or anything. So now for the mixed media, I wanted to make as close to that dusty kind of blue that's in that offbeat paper as I could. So I have mixed a light mint, a cyan, and I just added a tiny bit of black because that blue is definitely a grey toned blue. And it's not quite perfect, it is a little bit too green, but it's pretty close for what I wanted. And that is acrylic paint, by the way, just normal artist acrylic, and I've mixed it with a tiny bit of water just to make it thin enough to use the packaging technique and to do some splatters with. So I just smushed it on a bit of scrap. It's actually a bit of scrap page protector, and you can see I'm not being careful about this at all. This took me literally about 10 seconds, and I have a lot of people ask questions about mixed media and how I can make it look good. Whenever they try to make it, or try to mix media, it never looks quite right, and I think a lot of people just try to make it look right. I think you just sort of have to splotch it down and however it looks. I'm not trying to make it look any particular way. I'm just popping it down there, and that's the way it ends up, and I just accept that. So I think the trick is not to force it. And this yellow I struggled with quite a bit, just trying to mix the right colour. So I wanted something close to the yellow paper that I used in the rest of the layout. This is obviously far too light, so I add a bit more yellow, and then I'm adding just a touch of red because it is slightly towards the orange, that yellow. It's not like a lemon yellow. And I add way too much water the first time in that first well, so I mixed it again, and then I added way too much water yet again, and then I just gave up and went, oh well, it's close enough as yellow. So I'm just splotching it down now. Again, just taking my brush, scribbling a bit on that bit of plastic, and then smushing it down. I'm not making it any particular shape. I'm just squashing it down, and then splatters. So being just really not worrying too much about the final outcome, I think, is the trick with mixed media. And just remembering that it always looks wrong before you add all your photos and ephemera and other embellishments on the top. So this little part of the cut apart sheet, which is the Epic Tales paper, I just thought that would fit really nicely into my title there, because yeah, I saw it, it was the right colour, it fit just perfectly in that little space, and it was a bit of a spur of the moment decision just to kind of add a little addendum to my title. So now I am starting to glue things down. I know my photo is not going anywhere, and know my title isn't going anywhere else, so I'm just using a bit of wet glue because tape does not like to stick to mixed media. Here I'm just using some foam squares behind that part of my title because the rest was up a little high on that photo mat. And yeah, now I'm going in with, I've got some journaling here. It's just strips that I printed out on my home printer. I don't have a typewriter. I would love one, but I don't own one. So I just print these out on heavyweight paper on my computer, on my home printer in a typeface font, and it's the same effect, really. The font I've used on here is Traveling Typewriter. If you're interested, that's my favorite. and just gluing those down there. Now I wanted to bring in a few circle ephemera, like circle shape ephemeras, because the best banner is kind of a circle shape. So I've used that half a compass sticker that I had floating around. I popped in a couple of those clear stickers. They're kind of like mixed media splotches, and I thought they were perfect for this layout. I will move that one. Yeah, I move it over slightly. I like that wooden frame, so I just snipped the top off so that I didn't waste the bottom, and tuck that behind my photo at the top there. And just bringing in all these circle ephemera, so those mountains, that little flare badge. I think that's the second last one I have left. I've used the heck out of these flare badges. I love them. I like that little arrow because it's laying over the top of the compass, and yeah, I like that effect, so I just swapped them out there. I like the bear. It doesn't really make sense, but yeah, he's kind of he looks nice there. I like the bear. I like this tiny word sticker at the top of my photo. It kind of helps to echo my journaling at the bottom there. I wanted another pop of green just there because of the green flare badge on the left hand side. So that's just a little clear sticker. It says legendary, I think. And then the last thing I'm going to do is enamel dots. I love these. They've gone on nearly every layout I've made so far, I think. So I'm just doing 2 groups, but I did 3 at the bottom, and then this will be a cluster of 5 at the top here because there's a bit more room. And that's my whole layout. Thank you so much for joining me today. The link to the blog post will be in the description box, so make sure to go check that out there. Close-ups are coming up. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.